And good morning. I am hitting go live. Good morning to our YouTube friends. Let me bring in our Facebook friends in here. I got a couple of Facebook pages. All Falcons fans on All Falcons,
Mhm.
and Scott Kennedy Sports. So we want to bring those in as well and get it going. Hit save changes. Bring everybody in. And welcome in, everybody. This is Forging the Falcons, and my goodness, have we had a busy week.
Hmm.
The last time we saw you, Matt Ryan hadn't even restructured his contract. That seems like way news. That's old news.
Yeah. God.
So a lot has changed since then, but I think I just hit this on on YouTube. If you don't mind retweeting that for me, everybody, that'd be a big help. I just dropped it in the YouTube chat. Bring in some more folks. It should be a big day today. But yeah, the big news yesterday. Let's just kick off with that. Nick, how are you doing first? Let's say hello. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a whirlwind of a week, honest to God, with everything going on with the Broncos covering that.
It's
And
only Wednesday. Doesn't it feel
I
like it should be Friday by now?
it's been a week because everything since the Russell Wilson contract has been, giddy up and go. So, or not the contract, trade. And also daylight savings time, and also out late last night for my wife's birthday, celebrating that. So,
Happy
um,
birthday, Doc.
yeah, the heat's finally back on for real. So they did it, and I had to go down and figure out a radiator that's a gas guzzling one from like the 1980s. Don't blow up the house, Nick. I'm competent. I can do this. Took a little bit, but we got it. So yeah, no, going pretty well. Things are looking up. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, well, speaking of looking up, things have been pretty bleak as far as the Falcons
Hmm.
go. Um, until the news yesterday that Deshaun Watson and the Falcons could be a thing, and it looks like it's being driven by Deshaun Watson,
Hmm.
which actually makes it even more of a thing. So let me hit the retweet on this here real quick. Trying to get as many people in as possible as we're doing this, and I try and wait just a moment. So it seems improbable at first. Deshaun Watson maybe wanting to come to the Falcons. Why would he want to come to the Falcons? Why would the Falcons give up that capital? Because you've heard me say something similar, Nick. Would it make sense to do this? And in fact, I think I even wrote it up last year. Would it make sense to try and go get Deshaun Watson? I'm like, no, it costs 3 first-round picks, and you don't build your future by mortgaging your future. I've kind of come around on that in the last year. That 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, and it might be because I had higher hopes for this team
Mm.
in January of 2021, and I've just learned that this 2022 is going to be basically a disaster. It's going to be a disaster no matter what they do,
Yeah.
unless some miracles are pulled off and things can change. But right now, the arrow is still trending down for the Atlanta Falcons,
Yeah.
and you're talking about a 12 to 15 year move. Why would Deshaun Watson want to come? They don't have anybody to throw to because you're not talking about 2022. You're talking about having monopoly money to play with in 2023 and an owner willing to spend it. And for every first round draft pick that you give up, there's another $5-6 million player you can bring in free agency to build around him, who's a proven veteran, a proven vet. So it would be a move for 12 to 15 years. He's from Gainesville, Georgia, which is about 10 miles from Flowery Branch, where they practice. So he could ride a scooter to practice every day. I mean, it's really close. It's Gainesville's about 50 miles from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but it's only about 10 from Flowery Branch, where the practice facility and the team facilities are. He was a ball boy for the Atlanta Falcons growing up and got to meet and know Arthur Blank.
Mm.
Now, if there is an owner with a bigger heart in this league than Arthur Blank, good for you. If anybody is willing to give someone a second chance and a third chance and maybe a fourth chance, it would be Arthur Blank. The comfort level for Deshaun Watson coming home after for whatever you want to think about it, but he's been through things too, the media and everything, and however you want to say he's did this or did that, I don't know, but it's been a difficult period, even when you're on the wrong side of the law. It could be your own doing, but to come home and be in a comfort level, be around an owner that you know since you were a kid and trust. And again, this is a 12-year move. This isn't a 2022 move. This is something, hey, this is what I want to do with the left of my career. And in that case, it starts making a little bit of sense.
Yeah. I mean, Watson, before the stuff that happened that came out that caused him to lose last season, he was a top 5 most valuable asset in football, given his age and the position he plays. Maybe that's dipped a bit a year away from the league, and some other guys ascending, such as, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen having a second great, phenomenal season, really stamping himself as a top 3 young quarterback option. Joe Burrow ascension as well, but Deshaun Watson's still a phenomenal quarterback. And these teams, we can speculate all day. We don't really know the details or the facts of everything that's happened around Deshaun Watson, but he was not guilty. He's a very valuable young quarterback. And these teams, you think these teams are really good, or they spend a lot of money on evaluating the talent on the field? They spend just as much money and time and effort figuring out stuff off the field. So anything that they do they've calculated 100 times over to see if the risk is worth the reward and what's everything going on there. So,
and they're lining up, Nick.
And they're lining up.
They're lining up.
Yep.
I know we're all cynical about the morality of teams and to be able to win, but there are times where you become radioactive, and they're lining up for a shot at Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah. And if he was maybe a running back that was 30 years old, it'd be like, see ya. But as a 25, 26-year-old quarterback, there's still a lot of meat on the bone for his career. So it makes sense. I am curious to see how it plays out. Obviously, we're talking about Deshaun Watson here. The teams that seem to be coming out as the likely landing spots for him are the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and I believe also the Cleveland Browns, although that one's been shot down multiple times now by a lot of people. But I think the Cleveland Browns are still out there as a possibility. Regardless of what happens with the Cleveland Browns, it sounds like Baker Mayfield is done. I don't know if you saw his
I did, and I tried to read into it a little bit, saying, there's no hidden meanings here, just basically whatever happens, I wanted to let you know I love being here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what that means.
He's gone.
Before we get any farther, let me go. I want to say thank you to a sponsor of ours. So if you've been anywhere near the Atlanta market, or looked at the Atlanta market, or thought about the Metro Atlanta market and homes, the real estate market is absolutely on fire right now. I know people that are trying to move around and they say, I don't know, the houses are gone before they come on the market. That's why you need an agent. That's why you do need an agent. Sometimes you always wonder, you just go around, it's like, do the agents earn their money? Yes, I watch Ryan Kennedy work her ass off on getting people in the right things, and they know other agents, and they know the listings that are going to come on before they even come on. So all the people flocking here from Georgia, from California, from New York, from Chicago, everybody flocking to the state of Georgia right now. You're going to need an agent. And if you're ever thinking about trying to sell and upgrade, now is the perfect time, because the market's been hotter than ever. So hit up Ryan Kennedy Homes. You see a phone number there. Give her a call, and she will help you and do her darndest, I promise you, into finding you a home in the North Metro Atlanta area that you can be proud of. So thank you to Ryan Kennedy Homes. Let's say hello to the chat a little bit. We're a little late in doing that. And because, again, I kind of wanted to get right into this, because there's so much to talk about what's happened in the last week. I'm like, should we go on, Nick? Let's go. You know what? Let's just be patient. We can wait for it. But look, good morning, Nick and Scott. Who do you think is going to win March Madness? I tell you who won't. The Auburn Tigers will not. I went to Auburn. They will not win.
I can also tell you the Iowa Hawkeyes will not. I know that Dick Vitale had Iowa going all the way to the championship game, which scares me. Now they're going to lose the first round. I mean, God, they play on Thursday. They play, who is it? Richmond? The Richmond Spiders, who's the team that also knocked out Iowa State when they were the 2 seed, a decade ago. Iowa has not reached the Sweet 16 since like 1985. So I don't know. I know they're a 5 seed. They're in the same side as Kansas, which I don't know if you know this. Carl is a big Kansas Jayhawk basketball fan. So we've been on the same bracket multiple times. Iowa can never get out of their own way. So we'll see. I'm probably going to pick Kentucky. Blue blood. I don't know. I don't watch enough college basketball to have an opinion. So I'm hoping Iowa does well, but I guess Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm just a curse. So, I think I've watched like 2 Auburn games in the last 2 years, and they're like minus 50 in points. I'm like, man, I'd rather them win and then watch them and curse them like that. So, EJ, good morning. Let's hit some football. DWI guys, Ethan coming in. Welcome from across the pond. Sunny days. Good morning, James. Good morning as well. C. Beeston, Jeremy Sean saying good morning. Clee to the T. If you sign Watson, make sure you sign a fluffer for the team. Frankly, anytime you can slide the word fluffer into a sentence, I'm all for it. I think that's one of my favorite words.
Yeah.
Let's see. Coming down just a little bit farther. KA. Here we go. I kind of like this one. Honestly, not sure why Watson would want to go to Atlanta. And again, we hit on this a little bit just because he's from here. He's probably looking for a little bit safer environment for himself, a little bit more comfort. He's got familiarity and trust with the owner and Arthur Blank. And if you ignore the damage that Thomas Dimitroff has done to this team for the last 5 years, Arthur Blank will invest in this team.
Yeah.
That's all I ask from an owner is, kind of stay out of the way. And when we need a checkbook, do it. And, that's why Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are here, is to try and use that money wisely. And they're having to learn how to operate on such a budget, to get creative, to even just field a team, that once they have some money to spend, I think they'll be really good at finding players of value and coaching them up, because last year they had no business being a 7-win team.
No.
I was scrolling through somebody's media images yesterday, and it said, based on the teams they beat and their point differential and everything, they were the worst 7-win team in the history of the NFL based on point differential. I'm like, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, they have a ranking called, or a statistic called the Pythagorean theorem, which, hey, everyone, math, Pythagorean wins, excuse me, where they use point differential as the indicator of what's going to win. And it's actually typically much more predictive than the actual win-loss. Like last year, the Raiders won 10 games, but they had a negative 65-point differential, and their Pythagorean wins were only 6.8, which means the Raiders probably due for massive regression next season. The Falcons, what'd they win?
Seven
games last year.
They were 7-2 in one-run games. Baseball season.
Yeah.
They were 7-2 in one-score games, in part because they have a good quarterback. Cordarrelle Patterson and Kyle Pitts were great, and they have a great kicker. Younghoe Koo, I think, hit 3 or 4 game winners, and they just re-signed him. That's some of the other news. But if that reverses, it flips back to the norm, or even slides back to even a little bit. What are you looking at?
Yeah, not good. They were 4.7 wins for Pythagorean wins, which was the 5th worst in the NFL. Only teams worse were the Giants, the Texans, the Jets, and the Jags. So,
and so far, the moves up to this point, what are we looking at here? Team MVP in on the team, Cordarrelle Patterson. Might come back, probably won't. He was on $3 million last year. He'll probably get $9 million somewhere else. The team's leading wide receiver, gone. He just signed a 3-year, $30 million contract with the Tampa Bay Bucks. The NFL's leading tackler, obviously the team's leading tackler, gone. Foye Oluokon to the Jacksonville Jags on 3 years, $45 million. Those guys were making 2 apiece. Between the 3 of those guys that I just mentioned, who were basically 3 of the 9 or 10 legitimate NFL starters on this team, they were making $7 million last year between the 3 of them. Round up, we'll call it 8 based on a bonus here or there, because I think Foye and Russell were on 2.2, 2.3 each. They got so far $25 million this year, and Patterson hadn't signed yet. Yeah. You're taking those guys off the team, and who are you bringing in? They're one of 9 teams that have not signed a free agent. They do have a little bit of money so far. They're up like towards the 15 range, because Matt Ryan and Jake Matthews have restructured their contracts, which is good, opening up some money, but they haven't dipped into the free agent market, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't be overspending early, because they need 15 players. But Nick, could they be saying we're holding on to every penny we can in case we get Deshaun Watson and we have to eat Matt Ryan's dead cap number?
Yeah, it's very much a hurry up and wait situation. And actually, I was listening to the Athletic Football Pod yesterday, and while the Matt Ryan stuff is agreed upon, it's not official yet. It has not gone through league processing yet.
Okay.
So if they do get Deshaun Watson, there is a reality where that restructure is actually not official, and then they're not on the hook for that restructure where the dead money is going to be massive in the following seasons to come as well. So keep
It's
an eye on
about
that.
the same, honestly. It is. It's about the same. Looking at it right now, what it did was lower his, I mean, Matt Ryan, because the contract was so unfavorable to the team that Thomas Dimitroff gave him. You know what his base salary is this year? We all know he had the highest cap hit going into the season of anybody in NFL history, $47 million. Do you know under this new contract, do you know what his base salary is? Just take a guess.
4 million.
8. Yeah, 8. 8 million.
Yeah.
8 million. People talk, oh, Matt Ryan's too expensive. Not for you, he's not. Not for you. If you want to trade for Matt Ryan, pick up his 8 million. For goodness sakes, that's what Teddy Bridgewater's getting from the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get Matt Ryan for 8.7? Yes, please. Matt Ryan's cheap as a trade asset, which where it hurts, where it's hard is he's got a 55 million dead cap number. And again, why would Deshaun Watson want to come? Because if you can just stomach this season, just get it over with. 2022 is going to be a nightmare. Get it over with. Suspend him for the year.
I was going to say,
I don't care. Don't break Deshaun Watson. Suspend him for the season. Yeah. You're going to be 2-15 and get Will Anderson. Or get the number 1 overall pick and get 3 first-rounders back for someone that wants to come up and get Bryce Young, because you got your quarterback. You're done. You've got it. So trade out of that spot. Get 3 first-rounders back, because Falcons fans, anybody out there watching, 2022 is going to be pain. It's going to be painful. And I hope people don't take that out on Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. Take it out on Thomas Dimitroff. And every time, it's one of those movies. Every time you say that name, just spit on the floor every time, because this is not on the current administration. Now, if they can just eat the Matt Ryan contract, just do it. Don't eke through another 7-11 season, 7-10 season, 6 and whatever, 6-11, 5. Just do it.
Bottom out. And
you're playing with freaking monopoly money. Why would Deshaun Watson want to come to the Falcons? Because if he did in 2023, he could shop for his own receivers. 2 of them, maybe 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's why. Because he could go pick his own.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And you said it, not me. I kind of been dancing around it for, all last year. Like, Scott, this is I watched the Broncos and I watched the Falcons. The Broncos are not very good. This is a different game. The other thing about the Falcons too, not spending this season, is maybe you're playing the compensatory game as well. I know you lost Oluokon, and he got paid stupid contract. Oh my God, Jacksonville. I mean, he's a good young player, but what are they doing with that contract? You might get a 4th-round comp pick for a linebacker on the open market, which is insane. And I'm not sure what the exact details of Gage's contract are yet. Rich get richer, I guess. Tampa Bay. That's a little bit frustrating.
It's like $30 million, 3 for 30, with most of it guaranteed.
So that could be
torched the Bucks. So hell, there's a addition by subtraction from the other team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you should be playing the comp pick game as well. You need young, cost-controlled players, and playing the comp pick game means not making big splashes in free agency this year, mainly going after teams scrap, the veteran guys who were released, and going that way. But it's going to be rough. And, the worst thing you can do is there's the opposite end of the spectrum. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who spend stupid money on average players. And then you have the Indianapolis Colts, who spend no money on no players. It's like you need to find a happy medium. I guess I'd rather be the Colts, where you're sitting there biding your time, and then when your window's open, that's when you push the chips to the table, rather than, I need to spend this money. Oh my gosh, it's burning a hole in my pocket. But I agree with you next year.
The worst thing you can do, because the Colts have a good roster and about $60 million of available cap room. But the worst thing you can do is spend it just to spend it. Act like a government program where if we don't spend this money, we lose it the next year. Well, how about you give it back and use it to keep your budget? It's like, no, if we don't use all our budget, they'll lower our budget next year. Well, that's insane.
Yeah, the Colts are weird.
You don't have to spend it.
No, and there is, a certain extent, there's a cap floor, but you can get there pretty easily.
I mean? Don't waste it.
Yeah.
Maybe 1-year deals, okay, where they come off, but don't don't overspend on the wrong guys.
Yeah, it will be
A question
interesting to
coming
see.
from Kevin7 says, Scott, is Matt Walletsko someone the Falcons or Broncos should look at? Yes. I think he's. I've got some video on him. How much have you watched him, Nick? While I pull this up, so you give your take.
North Dakota, the Herd. I don't remember what their name is, but yeah, no,
The
he's an interesting.
Bisons?
Bisons. There you go. That's no, but that's North Dakota State.
Okay.
North Dakota's. Maybe they're the Buffalo. But he's a solid mover. I think he's interesting. I think he's probably destined for a swing tackle role. But I thought the tape that I had watched from the Senior Bowl is that's probably the best tape I have to watch him. And I thought he did pretty well there, considering the quality of the edge rushers there. I mean, Arnold Ebiketie right there, beating Arnold Ebiketie. That's a plus, man. Arnold Ebiketie had a great week. He's been really good down there. So he does interest me.
Is burying right there.
Foye Oluokon as well. So yeah, I think he's a little bit. You can see it here. He's a little high cut, which scares me a bit because sinking those hips, the base isn't massive. Doesn't have that bubble butt as the coaches ask for, or the scouts are looking for those offensive linemen. But I think he's definitely somebody I would be interested in day 3 as a developmental tackle. And gosh, watching these quarterbacks, I'm so glad the Broncos are out on this market. It feels good not to have to worry about Kenny Pickett scrambling in a practice drill.
6'8", 312. He's lean.
Yeah,
he's real lean, but he's got a 30-inch vertical. He's a gigantic power forward.
Yeah,
playing left tackle. So I think yes. You're talking 150 picks, and you're going to get some more. I think you just got a comp pick back for Alex Mack, maybe if he's around there in the 4th, 5th round, snatch him up. Absolutely, as a right tackle prospect that you can, a developmental prospect, because he might be one of those guys that has trouble putting on weight. He's 312 pounds, and we're talking about him. He's a little thin.
I mean, it's the anchor. It is a thing.
I know, but it just sounds so stupid. You hear yourself say it's like he needs to put on a little. He's 315 pounds.
A lot of these teams
6'8", 315, and he needs to. You'd like to see him in that 330 range, like an Abraham Lucas type.
It's weird because we have these numbers for just kind of peeling back the curtain here. We have these numbers for these players, but a lot of teams will get these guys in their medicals and they will do it's like they're getting tailored for a suit with their measurements. They're looking at the thigh circumference and their waist circumference, and
that gets a little crazy to me. It is
crazy, but it's based on,
sometimes it's TMI. It's too much information, and you end up making the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons.
I would push back just a little bit. It is TMI and it's crazy, but the reason they do that is as a data scientist myself, the collection of data over time, then you can look back and do statistical analysis on it and saying who are the have or have nots based on this. And if there's like a indicator here for injury or the ability to keep on weight based on some of these parameters, that does matter. So like I think it was Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of teams were scared to death of him coming out because he had such skinny ankles. They're like, is that an injury concern? I don't know. He's like got crazy ones, and he suffered that almost catastrophic injury. So it's crazy. It is, but this is a $1 billion industry, and all the data you can get to make the most informed decision possible, it happens.
Mm-hmm. Coming in saying it's 3 firsts and Kyle Pitts. That's too much.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone else said that in the chat. We didn't, because I think, and if I did, I messed up. I may have meant to say picks and said picks, smack my head. But I think Nick and I are in agreement here. There's 2 players on the Atlanta Falcons that are untouchable in a trade. 2, and that's it. AJ Terrell, Kyle Pitts, because both of those guys right now are worth multiple 1st-round picks on their own.
Yeah, for the quarterback, I would say that Terrell is not untouchable.
There's no such thing as untouchable for the right offer, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, those are your 2 building blocks.
Really a non-starter. We're just like, okay, well, we'll send you Deshaun for Kyle Pitts straight up. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think people would be kind of pissed about it, honestly. I think Falcons fans, because it's not just a perfect example here for Atlanta sports. If I'm looking on a spreadsheet and I'm playing this game on, based on numbers, the Atlanta Braves probably just made a really good move for Matt Olson. Mm-hmm. He's younger. He's $10 million a year cheaper. He puts up numbers equitable, but we don't root for numbers. We don't just root for the logos. We root for our players. Mm-hmm. And it freaking hurts that Freddie Freeman is leaving. It hurts. Um, Kyle Pitts has become a fan favorite right away. You
Yeah.
know, so while yes, okay, well you get the quarterback and all this stuff. I think people would be a little pissed off
Yeah.
if Kyle Pitts was included in any type of trade. But yeah,
I per-
3 firsts and Pitts is too much. That is too much. 2 in Pitts, and I'm probably shaking my head a little bit. You know, that
yeah.
still ends up being 4 first-round picks. I think you get 2 first-round picks for Pitts right now pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not 2 top 10 picks, but 2 first-round picks for sure, and I would say that the Atlanta
All right,
Falcons
okay.
picks.
Right now, if you are there's 2 teams with 2 top 10s, right? Or thereabouts.
Mhm.
Would they swap those for Kyle Pitts?
Probably. In this draft class,
Probably.
probably.
So maybe it's not too much, you
Yeah.
know? Maybe it's not. Um, and
But I
then,
would keep the offensive pieces. I think Terrell, maybe you could stomach. It would suck to lose him
yeah.
because he is so young and still good. But I would like Chris Lindstrom, Kyle Pitts, those guys who are young building blocks to help that quarterback you would be acquiring. Those are guys I would want to sit on if at all possible. DWI guys coming in. Ethan, good to see you, Ethan. I'm sorry that the Broncos listened to me and didn't make a big splash at the linebacker position, but we're going to be happy that Josie Jewell's back regardless. If I was Atlanta, I would want to see a copy of the transcript of Watson's sworn testimony yesterday in the civil cases. I guess Ethan is the lawyer here, so I'll take your word for it. I'm just operating in a world where it is possible. So thank you so much, Ethan. I agree with you too. You want to gather all the information possible. These teams are doing that, no doubt about that. Scott, you know, this is the skeptic in me here. And maybe this isn't the case because Deshaun Watson has to want to choose to go there as well. Those are the teams that he's interviewing. He has to be okay with. And apparently Houston already has deals that they are interested in from each of these teams.
That it's close enough that we're talking.
Yes, exactly. So, but part of it makes me wonder is Atlanta kind of came out of nowhere, and it seems like they don't fit as much as the Saints or the desperation of the Panthers right now. Is Atlanta's involvement a little bit... maybe facetious is the wrong word, but is it to drive up the price for
Is it
competitors?
cynical saying, you know, it is, but the thing is, it's like it doesn't necessarily make any sense because Atlanta doesn't drive up the price, but Atlanta doesn't have much to offer except that eight pick is nice.
Yeah, and you have players.
That's a premium pick, and frankly, if they give next year's pick, it's going to be a top 5 pick. You know, so you're talking about a top 10 and then a top 5 pick next year. And then maybe it starts coming off of there in 2024. It maybe, you know, we're working into the teens again. But yeah, the 20, I would bet right now, and I'll take all bets that not all bets. Some of you have way too much money. That you know, the Falcons are going to have a top 5 pick in 2023. And if I'm looking for a trade partner, it's like, okay, if I get a first rounder and if I send him to New Orleans, well, New Orleans could be a 25 pick.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, 26. So, and frankly, you know, it doesn't, these guys are, it's a job for them, it's professional, but for a Gainesville kid who grew up an Atlanta Falcons ball boy, the Saints is a little tough to stomach. I mean, the Falcons only have one rival.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Carolina, you know, Tampa Bay, meh, but it's the Saints. It's the New Orleans Saints. So, you know, why would he want to come here? Because this is a decade project. This isn't 1 year. This is, okay, he restructures and we just signed him to an 8-year deal. This is a for the rest of my life type of choice. And football will come and go. It will ebb and flow. And it makes sense a little bit for him to say, okay, I want to be back in Atlanta for the rest of my career. So is it a long shot? Atlanta sports fans, we think it's all long shots. We just lost Freddie Freeman, for God's sakes, after winning a World Series and offering him, you know, more money. And he's still leaving. You know, it's a cynical town. But there is some of this that makes a little bit of sense. I don't think it's all just hot air.
Yeah, but like raising the price does help you if your competitors are the main ones going there. And that's just an added benefit, I guess, of testing the market too. So really interesting to see how it plays out. And then the quarterback carousel surrounding that too. I mean, it's not just the Deshaun Watson potentially coming to a poor team. And we got Sean Lewis saying Watson has been on bad teams for years and he still managed to carry the team to the AFC South champions. You're right. And before Tom Brady came back, I would have said that that's a AFC South is kind of now the NFC South. But with Tom Brady back, that's a little bit different. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are geared up once again. A franchise quarterback can carry a team on his back, and you can build around him. And you're absolutely right. This is something, and thank you for the comment, Sean. Cute kids on the picture there. Congrats to you. Yeah, that's something that on the Broncos shows we've said for a while. Your train doesn't leave the station until you have the quarterback. And it's not just, gearing up for that one season when you have that quarterback. It's rolling the dice year after year after year, shuffling the deck year after year after year, because you already have that first guy, the most important guy, there for the long haul for multiple years. So it is about the long term. And you make a great point. I've been thinking this too. Why would he want to come to the Falcons? Well, the Falcons are in cap trouble and, don't have a lot of draft pieces, don't have a lot of pieces on their roster. He just came from that with the Houston Texans, and he elevated a bad team mostly. I mean, they were pretty.
Yeah,
still
this
had a high
last
draft
year they
pick
were
last
still
year.
bad, and he had an amazing year.
Yep, but it's a bad team with an ownership that trust. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with the Houston with the pastor that is like a big coaching. He's in the owner's ear. It's such a weird situation there in Houston. So at least Arthur Blank is going to do what he can to surround Watson and put him in an environment that he feels comfortable and he has some power in. He will empower Watson.
And good morning, Ray. Appreciate you being here. Got some folks
absolutely.
coming on Facebook, so share that around. It's strange to me that the Facebook doesn't get more. The YouTube can be a tenth the size and get 10 times the viewers. I see that on Mile High Huddle too. So share that around. Let's bring in some of our Facebook folks. So good morning, Ray. Appreciate you being here. Joe coming in. Appreciate you being here as well. Good morning. And Franklin saying I have Alabama versus Auburn in the NCAA final. You've heard me say this before, Nick. I kind of laugh at people that think what's the biggest rivalry in college football, and it's like it's not Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, that might have more people watching it, but in Alabama, there's nothing else to do except Alabama and Auburn. There's no we're going to bond over the Pistons playing the Cavaliers or the Lions against the Browns. No. There's nothing else. It's I hate you 365 days a year. So Alabama and Auburn in the NCAA final, that would be kind of fun.
I need some Big Ten in there. Otherwise, I'm not interested. No, yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun in my house to watch. I wouldn't watch it though, because I mean, I turn on a game. I was like, oh, Auburn's going to be kind of exciting. I turn on, they're playing Georgia. Georgia's awful. Georgia basketball is just horrendous, and they got a 20-point lead, and Georgia goes on like a 13-0 run. I'm like, find something else. I'm not watching this stuff. Good morning, Kevin and Joe coming in with a question. Say, never mind this Watson stuff. With Gage signing with Tampa Bay, is there a possibility we make a move for a wide receiver? I'm thinking someone like Laviska Shenault. Didn't he just sign?
No, he's
Okay.
The Jags signed Christian Kirk, who is a speed slot option, and Laviska Shenault almost has to be a slot.
Speed. He's quick as a cat,
Yeah.
but he's not a pop the
Burn
top off the back end of a defense. He's more he's more punt returner fast than kick returner fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Quick, not gazelle, not cheetah. But absolutely. The thing about Laviska Shenault for me is that he struggles getting off press, and he's not really a route runner, and he's best when you get the ball in his hands underneath and let him be a space player. But right now you're kind of using Kyle Pitts as your big slot space player, and he's much better vertically. But if you're signing Shenault, I'm curious. I mean, get good players. If you think you can use them, that's fine. And I see Jeremy saying Laviska is a Debo style. He's the off-brand Debo. Debo. There is only one Debo. All right, it's like saying somebody's a Alvin Kamara. Like, well, you think there's multiple Debos out there?
Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean,
Cordarrelle Patterson's not as good as a receiver.
Not as good as a receiver. Yeah, but I think Cordarrelle Patterson's a little crazier. I mean, you don't become all pro. I mean, he's more kamikaze. You don't become all pro multiple times as a kick returner unless you're a little crazy.
Yeah.
When he's running the ball, he's aiming to just it's fun to watch. He just attacks. Yeah. I mean, he attacks every time at the line of scrimmage like he's trying to wedge bust, and they're not even allowed to have wedges anymore.
Yeah.
So very similar. But again, there's two of those guys. So they're getting on the arc together as two unicorns. So
I'm just curious about the fit of Laviska Shenault, though. Unless your plan is to use Kyle Pitts more as a true X receiver, which he can do. Maybe you can start to get in a weird situation. Yeah, I guess it will be weird if he gets in a situation where he plays so much X that the fifth-year option, he lobbies it for it as a wide receiver rather than a tight end, which changes the money almost 2 times as much. That's years down the line. We're talking there, but I don't know, maybe. And I see Dave is mentioning Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He would make sense for me. The issue is you're spending money on a guy right now that's probably a number 2 or number 3. Does that impact your ability to bring in comp picks? And does that line up with where you are in your window right now? I mean, again, you've heard me say it. And if you're bringing in Deshaun Watson, yes, go get Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But if you're not, I feel like you're spending money for a window that's not there. And I'd rather save as much as I possibly can, get young, cheap guys if possible, or guys who are cuts so that way they're not messing with the comp pick formula, and, suck as much as you're going to suck in 2022 and hopefully bounce off the bottom hard.
Yeah, it's looking at it, the news, the first news that came out yesterday of the wide receiver stuff was that the Falcons had tendered Olamide Zaccheaus at $2.2 million, which is what Gage made last year. That should have been a pretty good indicator. The first indicator should have been 25-year-old Christian Kirk getting 4 years, $84 million,
Crazy.
Whose numbers are very, very comparable to Russell Gage. I even wrote that yesterday when talking about it. I wrote, even if he gets half of what Christian Kirk just got, he's priced himself out of the Atlanta market. It was pretty close. It was $10 million a year for 3 years, pretty close to what the half was, and it was priced out of Atlanta. Now, I love Russell Gage, but can I get Russell Gage production, 770 yards, 60 catches, 4 touchdowns, a number 3 receiver for half that for $10 million a year? You bet your ass I can. Yes, I can. So the problem is you're not getting $10 million back. This isn't like Calvin Ridley. You were getting Russell Gage production for $2 million next year, and the Falcons are betting that they can do the same with Olamide Zaccheaus next year, and they might be able to. Matt Ryan, for whatever faults he has made a lot of mid-level players a lot of freaking money. Austin Hooper, Russell Gage, Mohamed Sanu. He's made a lot of them put up some nice numbers and go get paid. So if only the Falcons could get a kickback on some of that money that Matt Ryan has helped make them. Coming down a little bit, I saw Dave had came in, and I'll come down to you, Dave. I wanted to say to Sean, and this is part of the other deal with if you give this up for Deshaun, well, you're going to get something back for Matt Ryan. If you trade Matt Ryan for, to the Colts, maybe you get a second for this year and a first next year, especially at $8 million, for God's sakes. Imagine being the Colts and gaining $20 million by swapping Matt Ryan for Carson Wentz, and you get $20 million back in cap space. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. You could trade Matt Ryan for draft capital wide receiver help. It's possible. I don't think I would have done that anyway, Scott. I think that, I don't know if the Falcons fans, teams don't, and there's too many people's jobs on the line typically to really take the full on tank mode. But I would be trying to get the cap right as possible and fighting for a top 5 draft pick, unless Deshaun Watson comes here. Then the conversation changes. It makes me feel, personally, I'll just speak, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable to go for him. I know that there's, everything that's going on with him right now. And it's just because I don't have all the details. If I had all the resources that an NFL team had and got all that information from an investigation, then I'd feel more comfortable doing it. But personally speaking, it makes me feel a little icky. But I get it, man. He's 25, 26, great quarterback. And if he wants to come here, the thing that also makes it weird is the no trade clause. Because you're not going to be able to trade equitable value for what he is on the field for his age and what position he plays. I mean, you said that 3 firsts and Kyle Pitts is too much. I think that's too little for what he is value wise. If he was you're not going to get equitable value because of no trade clause and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree just taking the shots, just because you could get at least 2 first rounders for Kyle Pitts right now. Yeah. So if I have Deshaun Watson or 5 first round picks, I'm going to have a better team with 5 first round picks. Even if I used every one of those on a quarterback, I'd end up being okay. If I used 2 of them on a quarterback, not 3, I'd be okay. Now, it wouldn't help me right away. This team can't compete right away.
Yeah.
They can't. Yeah. Kyle Pitts is 21 years old. He's going to have 15,000 freaking yards in his career. Hopefully he has more than 15 touchdowns in 15 years. That's the pace he's on. But Dave coming in, and there's going to be a lot of this, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. It says, please don't do this, Falcons, talking about trading for Deshaun Watson. And it might not be an option. It might not be in their hands. I'm not a guilt or innocent guy, nor do I convict people in the court of public opinion or the court. Things will get ugly in this fan base. Dave, right now, things are already kind of ugly. If you go on any of the Facebook groups and look at the way that Matt Ryan has divided and Matt Ryan is the ultimate professional, and, he gets just abused for what? I mean, okay, maybe you don't think he's good enough. All right, but what's he really done to deserve being just abused? And I think a lot of it is, again, I've mentioned this before, is it's the pay. It's a little bit of the envy. It's a little bit of this guy's hurting our team because we can't go get anybody else because we're paying this guy too much. And he can't win the big one. Well, have you been a Falcons fan for long? I mean, they've never won the big one. We're not talking about this guy is, a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers or the New England Patriots for 15 years. It's the Atlanta Falcons. This is statistically and pretty much based on winning percentage, the best quarterback we've ever had. So, it's already a little ugly right now. And Dave, it's going to get uglier in 2022. It is. This team, people think that this team should have won more than 7 games. They're out of their minds. It was a minor miracle they won 7, and they're getting worse. Right now, they're getting worse. They're not getting better. One of 9 teams that haven't signed anybody yet. They've lost 2 of their key players. About to lose another one, the team MVP. MVP on not on defense, but it's hard to call a guy that had 192 tackles and led the NFL, pretty replaceable. Not a key player. Boy, it was a key player. He was definitely a key player.
Yeah.
Coming down the line here just a little bit. Kenneth coming in here real quick says in 2000 the Randy Gregory Shane Ray comp 2015 Shane Ray was drafted in the first, Gregory in the second. In 2022, Gregory signed 5 years, $70 million, and Ray's an assistant manager at Wetzel's Pretzels. He might be an assistant to the assistant actually at Wetzel's Pretzels, but don't knock Wetzel's Pretzels. That's good stuff. Say the same thing about again, the draft is an imperfect science. And again, that's why we like having, more arrows in the quiver. Mm-hmm. I want to have more players to choose from and see which one of these guys steps up, because we're dealing with human beings, not just numbers on a spreadsheet like a combine. And short guys get discriminated against flat out. Grady Jarrett was a 5th round draft pick. DJ Jones, new Denver Bronco, 3 years. What did he get? 30 million, 3 years for 30, similar contract to what Russell Gage just got. 6th round draft pick. What do they have in common? They're 6 feet tall defensive linemen. They're discriminated against coming out, but they earned it. Give them a chance. Go with the guys that are uber productive despite not having maybe the perfect measurables. Get those guys later. Take a few of those guys later in the draft, and you're going to end up being pretty happy about it. Appreciate the contribution, Kenneth. Hope you are doing well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth. And free agency is kicking off here, so things are happening. I did see that the Broncos tendered Malik Reed, who there was some talk maybe he wouldn't get tendered given how much of a detriment he was on the field last year as far as edge rusher with the run defense. But if you guys remember last year, the Broncos, Reed was an undrafted free agent out of Nevada. And as an undrafted free agent, the right of first refusal means that the Broncos get diddly squat back for him if another team chooses to sign him. So this is the same thing that happened with Phillip Lindsay last year. The Broncos put on that right of first refusal and then said, you know what? We're going to take that off. Yeah, we refused the right of first refusal. They didn't even do that. They just simply took it off of him. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But if he's an edge rusher, that probably doesn't mean that they value him super high, because 2.43 for an edge who started, that's pennies. So,
and then I said I wanted to mention some of the other news that was coming. And we talked about Olamide Zaccheaus getting tendered. Jake Matthews restructuring his contract. I don't think we've really touched on that. Ended up saving, I think, about $8 million on the cap and puts his cap number at about 15, which is, I think that's about right. That's about right for a 9 to 14 type of offensive tackle. Being in that 10 range is much more, like I said, palatable than the $25 million cap hit he had. Mm-hmm. But Chris coming in, going back to Deshaun Watson. Good morning, Chris. Thank you for joining us. He says, the cost in draft picks for Watson is too much for the needs the Falcons have, as much as Matt gets how durable. He's so durable. I think Matt's missed like 2 games in 15 years. It's nuts. How durable do you think Watson is going to be, especially with our line and no running game and no receivers and the holes we have all over? Chris, I already coming in a little bit late. I already said, shoot, if he gets suspended for 2022, let's say you make that trade for Deshaun Watson and he gets suspended half the season. Okay. And I'm with you on this. You've heard me say the same thing about the wide receiver. The wide receiver doesn't do any good. But for me, the shelf life of a wide receiver is a little bit smaller than a quarterback. I look at this move, if they were to go and get a Deshaun Watson, it's a move for the next 12 to 15 years. And yes, 2022 is going to be a dumpster fire. Whether it's Matt Ryan behind the line or whether it's Deshaun Watson behind the line, 2022 is going to be a dumpster fire for this team. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me. Right now, like I said, they weren't very good last year. They're getting worse. Right now, they're worse, considerably worse than they were last year on paper. So it's going to be tough. So all of those needs, if you rip the Band-Aid off and maybe get a couple picks back from Matt Ryan and $50 million in available cap space, and you add Deshaun Watson, come 2023, I've got a ton of money and a quarterback to build on and a pretty good recruiter in Deshaun Watson coming to Atlanta, and we're starting over. The arrow, you finally hit bottom and the arrow's headed in the right direction. And you do it with money. You do it with Arthur Blank's money, which we know he'll spend. You won't have picks for a couple of years, depending on what you get for back from Matt Ryan, but you're doing it in the free agent market, and you're doing it with a legitimate long-term franchise quarterback. So I see it. I see both sides, trust me. But I can see it. I see why it makes sense, and I could get behind it for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It does make sense. Also, some more news coming out here. A guy that the Broncos had their eyes on, Darius Williams signing a deal with, you guessed it, the Jacksonville Jaguars. God, man, this printed money over there with the Cons. We got Mark Schrader coming in. Awesome. Good morning, guys. Good to see you, Mark.
Good morning,
over
Mark.
on
Thank
YouTube.
you for the support. We got about 55 watching right now, and make sure you're hitting those likes. Some folks coming in on Facebook, so hit those likes and shares on Facebook as you're coming in. Very much. Thank you so much. And Mark, appreciate the support. Following us all over here. If you have any questions about the draft or what, team building, some of the free agents, let us know.
Yeah, please do let us know. Would be, gosh, the Falcons are going to be fun. The draft will be fun. I'm happy that we still have a top 10 draft pick to discuss here, and we'll see what happens. I am very curious now. Seattle sitting at 9. Maybe that 8 pick becomes a pivot for the draft and a team looking to jump up and maybe get ahead of the Seahawks to draft a quarterback. It will be interesting to see that. I'm hoping for your sake, Scott, because I know how much you want to trade back and get more capital if that happens. If they don't end up getting Deshaun Watson, it does seem like, let me see. The wind is blowing right now that Deshaun Watson is going to end up in New Orleans. I think that
just feels wrong.
I know.
It feels wrong. I mean, an Atlanta Falcons ball boy to the Saints. No. Anybody but the Saints. But again, if I'm looking at the last 15 years, going to the Saints makes sense.
Yep.
It does. It's maybe not with Sean Payton. They got a lot to prove, but Sean Payton's gone. Yep. Some of the same fans and some of the same faces in there. But it should be interesting. And Travis, good morning. Travis says, good morning, Scott. As someone who covers the Falcons, who do you prefer, Ryan or Watson? I think they're actually very, very similar quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They both have good but not great arms. They're both incredibly cerebral. Pre-snap snuff. Man, pre-snap stuff. All right, smack my head. Pre-snap stuff. Let me slow down a little bit and take a breath. When I watched Deshaun Watson at Gainesville High School, he was the first and only quarterback I ever saw who was calling his own plays at the line of scrimmage. He's just got it. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks I ever went. And that's how he's despite some physical features that might make you think otherwise, he's not a runner. He's a pocket guy who gets by, doesn't have a huge arm. That's why he fell some, because he doesn't have he's not a tool. He's closer to Mac Jones than he is to Trey Lance or even Zach Wilson or someone like that. And he's nowhere near someone like Andrew Luck. He was a better comp for him would have been Mac Jones. They're very similar. One's a decade younger. So that's
big difference.
Big difference. That's easy.
Yeah.
You say, okay, Matt, thank you. This team's going to be horrendous. Go someplace you can win and that you can still walk on your 40th birthday, please. Instead of here. And NFL, suspend him and let's Put Felipe Franks back there to run for his life in 2022, and let's legitimately rebuild in 2023. And as a Braves fan, you think about the Braves thing about Freddie Freeman. It sucks. We talked on that earlier. Just talking about the attachment, the emotional attachment you have to the players. It's not just, okay, is this guy better than this one, or does this make the right sense financially? It's, Freddie Freeman's been a Brave for a decade, carried the torch away from Chipper Jones, been through some bad years, won a World Series, won an MVP, and he's leaving. It sucks. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. Alex, double A, I spell his name, copy and paste, Anthopoulos, Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves general manager, I think has done a phenomenal job of backfilling the Freddie Freeman loss by getting Matt Olson. And I said the only way this is a loss is if they don't re-sign him. Hell, they just signed him to an 8-year contract before this season even started. So I think the general manager for the Braves has done an absolutely fantastic job in a difficult situation.
Yeah, I don't know the details of that. It sounded like all they needed to do was tack on a 6-year on that deal, and Atlanta wouldn't do it. Again, not following that as much. But gosh, because of football, I do not have as much time to follow baseball as I used to. And the St. Louis Cardinals' ability sliding with the Cubs becoming good made it less interesting to me because I hate the Cubs. God, I hate them. God, I hate the Cubs. But yeah, no, it will be interesting. I Scott, just because of you, I'm actually pulling for the Braves because I know how happy it was, and following them during that run, being the Cinderella story was awesome to see them beat some big time teams. And we got John Clay Evington coming in here. Morning, gents. To your point, Scott, Russ fell in the draft because he was short. I think he's talking about the measurements that teams do. That
we're talking
crazy.
about guys being discriminated against based on measurables. And one of the worst ones that doesn't translate to production is height. So yeah, okay, you ran a 4.8. Yeah, that's a little scary. Slow scares me a lot more than being short.
Yeah.
But the worst one again is the interior defensive lineman. You can't get a kid recruited to the SEC as a 6-foot interior lineman. Yeah. You cannot do it. They've got to go someplace else. And, I say that and talking about, DJ Jones, but Ole Miss, but I'm talking about, you're not going to see those guys coming out of Alabama. Meanwhile, the LSU guys, Chad Lavallee was 5'11", SEC player of the year 15 years ago. It's just, and then they don't get drafted. It's like, what happened to low man wins? I actually did the same thing to Russell Wilson, John, to be perfectly honest, but it wasn't because he was short. It was because he was short and he was a baseball player. So we had him at a combine. I don't know if I have any of this stuff in archives or not. Definitely have pictures and film stuff, but my quarterback's coach was like, that's the guy. And he was like, that's the top guy here. I love him. He's 5'11", and he's supposed to be a high round baseball pick. I'm like, okay, 5'11" guys that are supposed to be high round baseball picks don't go and play college football. So I put 2 stars next to his name. I'm like, he ain't coming out. He's going to go play baseball. Yeah. Well, the rest is history. Well, I learned my lesson, and I put 5 stars next to Kyler Murray's name. And I did. I learned my lesson. And thank you, Russ, for teaching me that lesson. And we ended up hitting on Kyler Murray.
Russ is weird, though, too, because, the issue of him throwing over the middle of the field, if you look at his heat map, it's there. It's just like, okay, well, if he can't throw over the middle of the field, he needs to be one of the most accurate down the field, outside the number of quarterbacks in history. Guess what? He's done just that, which is insane. So he's still an outlier, and I get teams not taking him there. But if, let's say, the data we've gathered today, how much shotgun offense there is, more 11 personnel, less under center kind of stuff. Russell Wilson,
quarterbacks are protected more.
Yes, exactly.
The coverages have changed.
Yep. 100%. So I think a quarterback like him, if the redraft was today, maybe he's not going top 10 as a prospect. He would go number 1 overall if we obviously knew what he was going to be. So, but he would, Kyler Murray doesn't go number 1 overall unless Russell Wilson hits like he does, that kind of thing. So he would still be he'd be a high recruit today. And also I think that teams
GMs learned their lesson too, didn't they, Nick?
Yep, exactly. Yep. And it's an outlier until it's not. So it's a lot of fun. God, I'm so excited for the presser today too. I don't know how I'm going to get any work done, but really excited to hear that. Some news for you, Scott, and the Falcons fans in here. Back on the market, Austin Hooper just released.
I heard that was coming, and I think we mentioned that in Building the Broncos that he might be a decent guy as a pass catching tight end to come in for Denver too.
Yep.
If
It's a
he's
post
cheap, he'd
June
be a
1st.
good option. He'd be a good option to bring back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's post June 1st, so you'd have to wait a little bit for him to actually hit the market, which is annoying. But it's happening.
It's happening. I cannot hear. I'll have to tell you all this story, and I know some of you saw it. I cannot hear that phrase, "It's happening," ever again without thinking of Zach talking about his reaction to Russ Wilson. We can get into that on another day, but it's happening. I know Jeremy was there. I don't know if and US Dave might have been. Thank you, John, so much for the comment. US Dave said, Scott, regale us with the tales of coup, acceptable payday. He's on about $4.5 million, and it was 5 for 25, and it really based on the guaranteed money, it could be a 3-year deal for 5. And yeah, that's acceptable. He's one of the top 5 kickers in the NFL, and he's the top 5 kickers right now are at 6, 5'5", 5'5", 5'1", 5, and I go down a little further, 4'9", 4'7", 4'6 million. Yeah, Younghoe Koo. And again, talking about we want guys to root for. You know, Grady Jarrett might not make a ton of sense, but there's like one guy left on this team that fans identify with, and that's Grady Jarrett. You know, if you trade Grady Jarrett or get rid of Grady Jarrett, it better be for something more than cap space. It better be something that says, oh yeah, you had to do that deal. I get it. It sucks, but I get it. And Younghoe Koo, people love him. They love him here. Georgia Southern kid. They love him. So I think that's something that everybody was, pretty happy with. I titled my Facebook post, the Falcons re-sign Younghoe Koo. He gets paid, and we're pretty damn happy about that. And we are. We are.
And Kevin, real quick, giving a shout out there. There you go. 2011 playoffs, Scott. I don't know if you remember this one, but I was just kind of flexing here on you guys. I'm lucky enough to have been at what I would say is the single greatest baseball game in history. That 2011 World Series Game 6, where the St. Louis Cardinals were down to their last strike twice and ended up tying it. And then David Freese hits the walk-off home run in the 11th inning. I've never seen anything like that in my life. The foul poles were shaking after he hit that. Like, it was like an earthquake in there. And I get goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, oh my God, that game was insane. I'll put that game on and I'll watch it like it's the first time I've ever seen baseball in my life.
The Braves were on the wrong side of it, but Game 7 of the 91 World Series, where Jack Morris throws a 10-inning shutout, and John Smoltz went 9 with like a one-hitter, shut him out for 8. That's got to be pretty close.
Yeah.
That was painful. Oh, that one hurt. And here we go. Pelicans, New Orleans coming in. It says Michael Thomas locked up Deshaun Watson and joining the New Orleans Saints. Who dat? We'll see. Michael Johnson Michael Thomas and Deshaun have played about the same amount of football here in the last 12 months.
Yep.
But we'll see if that comes in. Again, it makes a lot of sense for Deshaun Watson to go to New Orleans. The word is they're the leader right now, and it does. It makes sense for him to end up there, except for the fact that he's a Gainesville kid who was an Atlanta Falcons ball boy. That doesn't make any sense. But welcome in Pelicans, NOLA. We accept all points of view here as long as y'all are respectful, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's but I'm really happy for Koo. Good kicker. It always makes me a little bit skeptical to pay specialists that much money, but if you have a good one, he can be a good one for a long time. So good for him. He definitely deserves it, and that's awesome to see. And also, we got DWI guys coming. Hooper to Atlanta, Pitts to Denver.
Don't even start a fun for that one. Like I said, there's untouchable is a strong word. So again, nobody is, everybody's got a price. Shout out to Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. But and rest in peace, Scott Hall. Now that I mentioned wrestling, I always used to greet people with "Hey yo" from Scott Hall, NWO Wolfpack. Rest in peace, dude. I know he battled some addiction demons of his own, complications from hip surgery. Caused multiple heart attacks, and he was taken off life support earlier this week. So rest in peace. Big fan favorite. But Hooper to Atlanta and Pitts to Denver. I think Hooper to Atlanta and Pitts would stay in Atlanta. He would take the Hayden Hurst role. Hayden Hurst had as much incentive to have a big year as anybody in Atlanta, and he didn't. So I think he's either proving to be who the Ravens thought he was, or some things just aren't working out for him. But he cost himself a bunch of money when the Falcons didn't pick up his option, and now I guess he's a free agent. He hadn't signed. I haven't heard that, have we?
Oh, I have not heard that. So will be interesting to see how that plays out. No doubt. Gosh, I'm Scott. Prediction time. We got it coming down here. Who are the Falcons going to make a move? Where are they going to make a move next? Because we're kind of sitting here waiting. Are they going to do anything? Or are they just going to sit on their hands and kind of let this offseason pass them by to save some cap and get those comp picks and take their medicine?
I don't think, I don't think they cleared up all that cap room to not make a move. And they can't. They can't go through. So if they sign anybody, look for the guys that are 25 years or younger. Bringing in a veteran doesn't do them any good. They got to start thinking about a cheap rebuild if they fit into a 5-year plan. That's who you're trying to bring in. Otherwise, it's 1-year veteran minimums to try and just put a field on the team next year. But I do think that they're holding on to, if you're in for Deshaun Watson, you got to wait until you get an answer on that before you do anything. And that's where I think they are. And I rarely ever, never predict my team, the teams that I cover, root for, anything to get anybody or win anything. And good morning, Michael Ranquillo. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael.
So I'm going to say the worst possible outcome is Deshaun Watson to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. That would be unfortunate. I think the wind is blowing that
way.
way.
Drew Brees finally, and good Lord.
Yeah. They have a lot of good pieces still, too. They're in Cap Hill, and people say the cap is a myth. The cap is a myth to an extent, but if the Saints didn't, if the cap was not a myth, then they wouldn't have been losing, Marcus Williams. They wouldn't potentially be losing Teron Armstead. You can always create more space, but eventually it does limit you. So I think that's the big lesson to take home there with the Saints.
The cap ain't a myth in Atlanta. I promise you that.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, guys, we're at an hour now, so we should probably start gearing up to get out of here. Scott, any
should we run through a 5-minute mock top 10?
Let's do it. That would be great. I'm in. Let's do it. I'm gonna miss these for the Broncos side of things.
Yeah, as long as the Broncos or Falcons have a top 10 pick, let's run it through here. So I'm not gonna do anything other than we'll just talk about it. But you can pick first this time. Jacksonville on the clock, number 1.
With everything going on there, I think the winds are blowing towards a Aiden Hutchinson selection there. So I'm going to go Aiden Hutchinson, number 1 overall. He is a culture builder there. He's kind of an opposite type of edge rusher from Josh Allen. You're going to get somebody who is going to demand excellence from those around them as well. That's a team that needs, getting that first round pick. Maybe he's not the guy with the highest upside in the draft class, but again, listening to him, he's kind of just built as a psychopath cyborg as far as his commitment to the game. So I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson there. Maybe that's the hitting a double there with the first overall pick, but at least it's very, very, very high floor. So Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I think he did well for himself at the combine. Honestly, we're talking, everybody looks at the 40 times, but we preach, look at the shuttles and the L cones, and he was, I think, the top in that change of directions at 6'7" too. I didn't realize he was that big. Oh man,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about drafting 5 days, and so much has happened here. I want to think Evan Neal, but I don't think you go Evan Neal I think they're okay at tackle with Detroit. I think he's probably the safest overall pick there.
They don't need tackle. They
don't need tackle. So, you might try and move down. Oh, I'd be real damned tempted to go Kyle Hamilton, number 2 overall, to be honest with you, in this spot. When I start looking at the guys here, and I'm doing it. I'm going to go Kyle Hamilton, number 2 overall. I don't need a tackle. I'm not sold 100% on any of the edge guys. I am sold on the best player in the draft. So I'm taking Kyle Hamilton, number 2. I don't care that he's a safety because he's a wild card. Cordarrelle Patterson, what is he? He's best player on offense. That's what he was. He was an X factor. And that's what Kyle Hamilton is. He's a defensive version of Cordarrelle Patterson. Just put him on the field and scheme his way. He's going to do good things for you.
Absolutely. I'm on the clock now with Houston. They sound like they're looking to move Laramie Tunsil. So I'm going to take the top offensive tackle here, Evan Neal, 3 overall. Get yourself a building block piece, right tackle, left tackle. Don't really care. He's going to be good there. So Evan Neal, 3 overall to the Houston Texans.
All right. That leaves me to the Jets. And if I'm not mistaken, the Jets still could use some secondary help.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, Sauce would be really high right there, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But you know what?
I mean, would he though? I mean, talk about a dude as well. he flew. He's got amazing size. He's a good tackler. He's a premium boundary
I'm gonna
cornerback.
take my risk that I can use that on one of my second guys, and I'm gonna go and let me just double check because I think they need help everywhere on defense. Honestly,
They do.
I'm gonna go Trayvon Walker number 4. I
Wow.
go Trayvon Walker number 4.
My dude, I'm glad that the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson after he had his combine because I was getting a little sad that he wasn't going to be there. So that's after hyping him up so much. I am now on the clock with the New York Giants. I'm going to take Ike Ekwonu here. That's a team that they need offensive line help. They are looking for upgrading that unit. I'm curious if bringing the Bills in maybe changes that, but again, this is a team that's going to want to run more spread concepts. And if you're running spread and kind of power spread options, you need some guys who can blast open some holes and make teams have to allocate guys to the box and play single high coverage so you can get those one-on-one matchups down the field. And if you have Ekwonu, he makes it harder for you to play too high, to play 6 men in the box because he is that dominant as a run blocker. So Giants there picking number 5, Ike Ekwonu.
I think that puts me Carolina Panthers. They're not going to get Deshaun Watson. Now they just got Deshaun Watson. They're not going to get Deshaun Watson. So let's do the reach. Let's do the reach here. And they go Malik Willis, number 6
Wow.
overall.
Some
Go with
talk.
the guy with the tools, the upside. He's not too far. Charlotte's 3 hours from where he lives. He's kind of from this area. Charlotte, like I said, Charlotte's not too far from there. They've got to get a quarterback of the future, and you've got Sam Darnold on your 1-year deal. Let him be the guy this year, and then be prepared to go again in 2023.
Yep, absolutely. So now I'm on the clock with the New York Giants. This is a team that seems like they are shopping James Bradbury. It's a team that looks like they're shopping Saquon Barkley as well. I'm going to go with Sauce Gardner here. He is the premier cornerback in this class. The way he ran at his size, his length was impressive. The field drills at his size too. Typically, I mean, it's just physics here. The higher you are from the ground, the harder it is for you to turn. And he looked super fluid for his size. So I was super impressed. Has some inside outside ability too. I think Gardner's a dude. And if you're looking to change a new culture there, he's probably one of the dudes who him and Hutchinson seem like the top and Hamilton seem like the top culture changers for defenses this class.
I'm Terry Fontenot, and I'm already standing at the podium like this, waiting for you to move. And I'm going to turn in my card, and I'm going to take Kayvon Thibodeau. A desperate need at edge. A former guy that was talked about as number 1 overall. So Oregon, I'm gonna go edge again. The Falcons had 11 less sacks than the second worst team in the NFL. Got to get the edge. This is a place to do it. Could have gone Derek Stingley here. Could have gone Charles Cross here. You didn't go Charles Cross, did you? No.
Nope.
No. He was still on the board. Quarterback of the future's gone. I'm trading this pick to the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. But no, I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau here at 8.
Seattle's on the clock now at 9. They need help at a lot of premium positions. But one thing they've really struggled at over the recent years is getting after the quarterback. I'm going to go Jermaine Johnson here at 9 overall. He's a bigger body edge rusher too, strong at the point of attack, really good run defender, something that Pete Carroll's going to want no matter what kind of defense and formation they're using. So Jermaine Johnson, 9 overall to the Seahawks.
Love Jermaine Johnson. That was my guy.
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker's your guy. Jermaine's my guy. And they, both were at Georgia for a while. And then I will go. I took a risk that I thought one of those guys would be there. Clean bill of health, number 10, need a corner, Derek Stingley Jr. for the Jets. So the Jets come out of this with 2 picks. They come out with Trayvon Walker and Derek Stingley Jr. at 10. Not all bad.
Yeah. No,
so there's
not
the
all
top
bad
10.
at all.
Let us know what you think, y'all. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you made it this far on YouTube or Facebook, everybody, appreciate you being here. We had about 50 or so. It's if something comes through with Deshaun Watson and the Falcons, I'm going live. So keep those alerts on. Make sure you're subscribed and liked, because I will go live. I will call Nick, and Nick will say, I have a real job. I can't do that. But we'll try and do something right away. If that happens, we'll go live with an emergency gut reaction. And it sounds like it could happen this week. I mean, it feels like this. It's only Wednesday. Golly, it feels like it should be Friday by now. Who was I supposed to get? GK?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's GK? I didn't get GK. My kid's a goalkeeper.
George Karloftis.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
I'm like, GK. No, I'll go with Kayvon Thibodeau. I like his upside better than Carl Loftus. That's why I was terrible at crossword puzzles. It's like I got an answer. The answer is goalkeeper. No, I'm stuck. Now that's all I can think about. No, I would definitely. I think Carl Loftus is going to fall lower, like 20s. I would definitely go. I would go Thibodeau here in this spot. But appreciate everybody being here again. Nick and I will be on Mile High Huddle, that channel tomorrow, talking building the Broncos. But yeah, we will be talking building the Broncos. But it will be Broncos for breakfast. It turns out my son's new baseball coach is a Broncos fan, so I'm going to get him in here, make sure that he's in the chat at 9:30 in the morning. And Broncos country is everywhere. Falcons country is spread out in Atlanta because there's so many transplants here. But we got to stick together. Falcons fans have to stick together. So it could be a very interesting week. It's already been an interesting week, just a lot of it for the wrong reasons with some of the players the Falcons have lost. But I promise you, they're going to make some signings. They cleared up this room for a reason. So until next time, appreciate everybody being here, and we will see you again soon.